My name is Clara. I'm 30 years old. I live in Portland, Oregon. It's a city with soft rain, tall trees, and old bookstores on every corner. My apartment is on the second floor of a red brick building near the river. From my window, I can see people walking with their dogs, children riding bikes, and the lights of the city slowly waking up in the morning. I like this neighborhood. It's quiet, clean, and full of small cafes where people drink coffee and read. Many people think I have a good life. I have a steady job at a flower shop downtown. I arrange roses, lilies, and small white daisies every day. I help couples pick bouquets for weddings, mothers choose flowers for birthdays, and sometimes I make simple bunches for people who just want to say thank you or I'm sorry. The shop smells like lavender and soft earth, and I wear an apron with my name on it. People smile when they walk in. It's a peaceful job. I've been there for 5 years now. I also have a husband. His name is Thomas. We live together in the apartment with 2 rooms and old wooden floors that creak when you walk. We have a small kitchen where the window faces a tree. Thomas works as an accountant. He wears glasses and types fast on his computer. He leaves the house at 8-9 a.m. and comes back around 6. Every evening, he places his bag by the door and says, "How was your day, Clara?" I always say, "It was okay." At night, we eat dinner together at the small table. Sometimes soup, sometimes pasta. He washes the dishes, and I dry them. Then he sits on the couch to read the news on his phone. I sit by the window and look outside. The city gets quiet. Lights in the building across from ours go dark, one by one. If someone looked at my life from the outside, they might say, I'm lucky, a nice apartment, a stable job, a husband who is kind and calm. But when I sit alone, when the lights go off and the world falls asleep, I feel something heavy in my chest. It is quiet, but it is not peace. It is sadness, a sadness I cannot name. And I don't know how long I've been carrying it. Maybe a year, maybe more. I didn't always feel this way. There was a time when I believed in love, when I thought love would feel like sunlight, warm and full. But something changed. Or maybe I changed. It started 1 year ago, on a cold morning in February. I stood in front of the mirror, holding a wedding dress. It was simple, with lace on the sleeves. My friend Rosa stood behind me, smiling. "You look beautiful," she said. I smiled too, but it felt like the smile belonged to someone else. That was the day I married Thomas. Thomas is a good man. He is gentle. He listens when I speak. He opens the car door for me, brings me hot tea when I am sick, and always remembers to wish me good luck before work. He calls me sweetheart and kisses my forehead before bed. He never shouts, never forgets to ask how I am. And still, I don't love him. I didn't marry Thomas because of love. I married him because I was tired of being alone. Before Thomas, I was with someone else. His name was Eric. Eric was not like Thomas. He was loud. He laughed easily, and he made me feel like the world was exciting. We spent late nights walking by the river, talking about dreams, listening to songs in the car with the windows down. I thought he was the one. I gave him everything: my heart, my trust, my time. I believed in forever, but Eric left. No warning, no goodbye, just silence. One day, he stopped replying to my messages. I waited for a week, then 2, then a month. He was gone, just like that. And I was left standing in a room full of memories that didn't belong to me anymore. After that, I stopped feeling. I stopped dreaming. I told myself love was not real, that it only brought pain. So when Thomas came into my life, kind, gentle Thomas, I didn't push him away. I let him take me out for dinner. I let him hold my hand. I let him talk about a future. And when he asked me to marry him, I said yes. I said yes because I wanted to forget Eric. I wanted to forget the pain. I thought if I married Thomas, maybe love would come later. Maybe my heart would learn to love him. But it never did. And now, every morning, I wake up next to a man who loves me, and I feel nothing. Thomas tries so hard to make me happy. He wakes up early on Sundays to buy my favorite coffee from the shop down the street. He writes little notes and hides them in my lunch bag. You are my sunshine. Thinking of you, I love your smile. Sometimes he leaves flowers on the kitchen table, even when there is no special reason. He remembers the small things. He always does. He knows I like the sound of rain, so he leaves the window open just a little during storms. He knows I hate onions, so he picks them out of his plate before offering me a bite. He notices when I wear a new sweater and says, "That color looks beautiful on you." Many people would say I'm lucky, and maybe I am, but my heart feels quiet, too quiet. Sometimes I sit and watch him while he reads. His face looks calm. His hands turn the pages gently. And all I can think is, why don't I feel what he feels? He looks at me with so much love in his eyes, and I smile. But inside, I am cold. One night, we sat on the balcony together. The air was cool. The sky was clear. I could hear a dog barking in the distance. Thomas looked up at the stars and then turned to me. "Clara," he said, "I know you're still healing. I know you don't love me fully yet, but I'm not going anywhere. I believe love can grow. I'll wait as long as it takes." I looked at him. His voice was soft, his eyes full of hope. I wanted to cry. I didn't deserve his patience. I didn't deserve his love. Because every day, I felt like I was pretending, smiling when I didn't feel like smiling, saying thank you when my heart was silent, touching his hand and feeling nothing. I was living someone else's life, a life that looked perfect from the outside, but inside it was quiet, heavy, lonely. My mother once told me, "Love is not always fire, Clara. Sometimes it's a garden. It grows slowly, with care and time." I tried to believe her. I really did. But each day, I felt more and more like a stranger in my own skin. I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. She was kind. She was polite. but she wasn't in love. One Friday evening, Thomas made a special dinner. He came home early from work, which he rarely does. I heard him in the kitchen, humming softly as he moved around. The smell of garlic and herbs filled the apartment. I walked in and saw the table set with candles. My favorite plate, a folded napkin, a glass of sparkling water with a lemon slice. He made creamy mushroom pasta with garlic bread, just the way I like it. He even played soft piano music from the old speaker on the shelf. He wore the gray sweater I once said looked nice on him. When I walked in, he smiled and said, "All of this is for you." I sat down. I smiled. I said thank you. But inside, I felt nothing. I took a bite of the pasta. It was perfect, but it had no taste. The music felt like noise. The candlelight flickered, but I felt cold. I looked at Thomas across the table, and for a moment, I tried to feel something, anything, but my heart stayed quiet. I was acting in a play, smiling at the right time, saying the right words, pretending to be a woman in love. After dinner, Thomas took my hand and said, "Let's go for a walk." We left the apartment and walked to a small park nearby. The night was clear. The sky was full of stars. The grass was wet with dew. He led me to a spot under a tall maple tree, the same place where, 1 year ago, he had asked me to marry him. I remember that day. He was nervous. His hands were shaking. He looked at me like I was the only person in the world. And I said yes. Not because I was in love, but because I was afraid to be alone again. Now, standing in the same place, he smiled and said, "Remember this spot? I told you I'd love you forever." I looked at him, then at the tree. I wanted to tell him the truth. I wanted to say, "Thomas, I don't love you," but I couldn't. His face was so full of hope. His eyes were soft. His hands warm around mine, and I couldn't break him, so I stayed quiet. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. My heart felt heavy, my throat tight. I asked myself, is this what my life will be? Smiling on the outside and empty on the inside? The silence in the room was loud, and in that silence, I felt more alone than I ever had before. The next morning, my phone rang. It was Rosa. I hadn't spoken to her in a few days. Her voice was gentle. She said, "Clara, you sound tired. Are you okay?" I wanted to say yes. I wanted to say I was just sleepy or had a long week, but I couldn't lie, not to her. I took a deep breath and said, "Rosa, I don't love Thomas." There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear her breathing. Then she said, "Clara, I know you've been trying. I see it, but you can't force your heart." I felt tears in my eyes. "I thought love would come," I said quietly. "I really did. I tried to be patient. I told myself he's kind. He's good. He's everything I should want. But my heart won't move. It just stays still." Rosa didn't rush to answer. She said, "Sometimes we do the right thing for the wrong reason. And sometimes we stay because we're scared of hurting someone. but staying can hurt too. It can hurt both people, slowly. I looked at the window. The sky was gray. It was going to rain again. I whispered, I feel trapped, like I'm living someone else's life, and Thomas doesn't even see it. Rosa said, maybe it's time to stop pretending. You deserve to feel alive, Clara. Not just safe, not just quiet, alive. I closed my eyes. Her words sat heavy in my chest. Later that day, I sat with Thomas on the couch. He was reading the newspaper. I watched him turn the pages, calm as always. I wanted to reach out. I wanted to tell him everything, but my voice stayed small. So I said nothing. I just sat there, looking at a man who loved me and wondering how long I could keep pretending. That evening, I took a long walk by myself. I didn't tell Thomas I was going. I just grabbed my coat and left. The air was cool and the streets were quiet. I passed the bakery where we used to buy cinnamon rolls on Sundays. I passed the bookstore where we once spent an afternoon looking at travel guides we never used. Every place held a memory, but none of those memories felt real to me. They felt like scenes from a movie I didn't belong in. I walked to the bridge near the river. The water was dark, moving slowly under the lights. I stood there for a long time. Cars passed behind me. Somewhere in the distance, someone was playing a guitar. I stared at the water and asked myself, what am I doing? I thought about Thomas, his soft voice, his steady hands, the way he looked at me every morning like I was his whole world. And then I thought about myself, the girl who once dreamed of love that made her feel like she was flying. The girl who believed that love should be loud in the heart, not quiet in the mind. I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened the photo gallery. There were so many pictures. Me and Thomas smiling at the beach, holding hands in the park, laughing at the dinner table. But as I looked at them, I saw something else. I saw my eyes. They were always smiling, but never shining. I saw a woman who was trying very hard to look happy. And suddenly, I felt very tired. I sat on a bench by the water. The wind moved through the trees. I closed my eyes. I remembered the first time I met Thomas. He had dropped his coffee in the shop, and I helped him clean it up. He laughed, and I smiled. I wasn't in love. I just wanted to feel okay again, and he made me feel safe. That was all. But safety and love are not the same. Not always. I stayed on that bench until the sky turned dark. Then I stood up, put my phone away, and walked home. My feet were heavy, my heart even more so. When I opened the door, Thomas looked up from the couch. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded, just needed some air. He smiled and said, "I was getting worried." I smiled back, but it wasn't real, and I knew it couldn't go on like this much longer. The next morning, I woke up before Thomas. The apartment was still. The sky outside was a soft blue, and the curtains moved gently with the breeze. I sat on the edge of the bed and looked at him. He was sleeping on his side, one arm under the pillow, his face peaceful. I felt a strange kind of pain. Not sharp, not loud, just a deep ache. I didn't want to hurt him, but I already was, in silence, every day. I got up and made coffee. I didn't turn on the lights. I stood in the kitchen, holding the warm cup in my hands, listening to the ticking clock on the wall. I thought about all the times I told myself things would get better, that love would arrive like spring after a long winter. But maybe this winter had no end. Maybe it was never going to change. When Thomas came into the kitchen, he smiled and said, "Morning, Clara." I smiled too and handed him his cup. We sat at the table without speaking. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't comforting either. It just was. I looked at his hands around the cup. He had kind hands. The kind that carried groceries without being asked. The kind that closed windows when it rained. The kind that had held mine gently every time I cried. I wanted to tell him then. I wanted to open my mouth and say the words. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw trust. I saw calm. I saw the man who believed I loved him. And I couldn't break that. Not yet. Maybe not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But soon. Later that afternoon, I met Rosa at a small cafe near the library. She was already there, sitting at a table by the window. She looked at me with soft eyes. I sat down and took a sip of water. "Did you tell him?" she asked. I shook my head. "Not yet." She didn't push me. She just said, "When you're ready. But don't wait forever, Clara. Waiting doesn't heal the truth." I nodded, feeling something shift inside me. A quiet decision, still forming, but growing stronger. I didn't want to live like this anymore. Not out of guilt, not out of fear. I wanted to find my voice again, even if it hurt, even if it broke something. Because maybe in that breaking, something else could begin, something real. That night, I stood in the bathroom for a long time, staring at my reflection in the mirror. The light above was soft and yellow. My face looked tired. My eyes looked older than they should. I touched the edge of the sink and took a deep breath. I wanted to see something in the mirror, some kind of sign, some kind of answer. But all I saw was a woman who had been silent for too long. Thomas was in the living room watching a movie. I could hear the sound of music, quiet laughter from the screen. I walked out slowly and sat beside him. He smiled and placed his arm around my shoulder. I leaned into him, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't know what else to do. Halfway through the movie, I whispered, "Thomas." He turned to me. "Yes?" he said. His voice was calm, kind. I opened my mouth, but no words came. My heart was beating fast. My hands were cold. I looked down at them, resting on my lap. I couldn't say it. "Not yet." "Never mind," I said. "It's nothing." He gave me a gentle smile and kissed the top of my head. "Okay," he said, and turned back to the screen. I felt the tears come, slow and quiet. I wiped them before he noticed. I didn't want him to see me cry. Not like this. Not when he thought everything was okay. After the movie ended, we got ready for bed. He kissed me goodnight, like he always did. "Sleep well, Clara," he said softly. I nodded and turned off the light, but I didn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, listening to his breathing beside me. The room felt heavy, the silence louder than before. I thought about the life we had built, the dinners, the holidays, the photo frames on the shelf, the shared toothbrush holder, the 2 coats hanging by the door. It looked like a marriage, but it didn't feel like love. And somewhere deep inside, I knew I couldn't stay in this story much longer. I couldn't keep playing this part. My heart was quiet, yes, but it wasn't dead. It was still there, waiting, wanting to speak, and soon it would have to. The next day was cloudy, the kind of gray sky that makes the whole world feel slow. I walked to work without an umbrella, letting the soft rain touch my face. The flower shop was quiet when I arrived. I unlocked the door, turned on the lights, and breathed in the scent of fresh roses and eucalyptus. It was a smell I used to love. It reminded me of mornings full of hope. I watered the plants, arranged a bouquet for a regular customer, and swept the floor. My hands moved out of habit, but my mind was somewhere else. Every time the door opened and someone walked in, I hoped they wouldn't ask about love. I didn't want to talk about weddings or anniversaries. I didn't want to write notes that said forever or I love you. Not when I didn't even believe those words anymore. At lunchtime, I sat in the back room with my sandwich untouched. I stared at my phone. There was a message from Thomas. Hope your day is going well. I'll pick up dinner tonight. Love you. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I didn't know what to say. Saying, love you too, felt wrong, but saying nothing felt worse. When I got home, Thomas was already there. He had brought Chinese food. He smiled when he saw me. I got your favorite, he said, holding up a box of noodles. I smiled a little and said, thank you. We sat at the table and ate quietly. The clinking of chopsticks was the only sound in the room. He tried to talk about a podcast he listened to at work, something about space and stars. I nodded and asked small questions, but my heart wasn't there. After dinner, I started to clean up. He came behind me and hugged me around the waist. I missed you today, he said, his voice warm. I nodded again, but I didn't say anything. He held me tighter. You've been quiet lately. Is everything okay? I stood still. My hands were wet from washing dishes. My eyes stared at the sink. The moment was here. I could feel it. I turned off the water. I dried my hands. I turned around and looked at him. Thomas, I said, we need to talk. His face changed. He looked confused, a little scared. Okay, he said slowly. What's going on? I opened my mouth. My heart beat fast. But this time, I didn't stop. I've been keeping something from you, I said, and I can't keep it anymore. Thomas stepped back a little, still watching my face. His hands were by his sides, not moving. He looked like he was waiting to be hit by something he couldn't see yet. I sat down at the table, and he followed, sitting across from me. The light above us felt too bright. I wanted to turn it off. to sit in the dark, but I stayed there, quiet for a moment, gathering the words I had carried too long. I've tried, I began. My voice was soft, almost shaking. I've really tried to be the wife you deserve. I've tried to grow love in my heart, to make it real, but it hasn't come, Thomas. It just hasn't. He didn't speak. His eyes stayed on me, wide, unsure. I care about you, I said quickly. You're a good man. You're patient and gentle and kind. You've done nothing wrong. But I didn't marry you because I was in love. I married you because I was hurt. I was broken when you found me, and I thought maybe time would fix everything. That maybe your love would be enough for both of us. I looked at his face. It was still. No anger, no tears, just stillness. But my heart never caught up, I said. And every day I've been pretending, smiling when I feel numb, holding your hand and wondering why it doesn't feel like anything. And I can't keep pretending anymore. I'm tired, Thomas. I'm tired of being someone I'm not. He looked down at his hands. His fingers moved slightly, like he was thinking of something to do with them, then stopped. So, he said slowly, you don't love me? I shook my head, feeling my throat tighten. No, I don't. And I'm sorry. The room went silent. Only the hum of the fridge filled the space between us. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't ask me to explain more. He just nodded once, slowly, like the truth had already been somewhere inside him, waiting. I always hoped, he said, almost whispering. I thought if I loved you enough, you'd feel it too. I believed in that. I felt a tear fall down my cheek. I wanted to believe in it too. He looked up at me. His eyes were red, but he didn't cry. So what happens now? He asked. I didn't have an answer. Not yet. All I knew was that something had ended, and maybe something else, something honest, could begin. We sat there for a long time, saying nothing. The quiet between us felt different now, not heavy with secrets, but open, bare. I had finally said the words I had feared for so long, and now they were sitting in the room with us, like a third person, quiet and calm. Thomas stood up slowly and walked to the sink. He filled a glass with water, drank half, and then placed it on the counter. His movements were slow, careful. He didn't look at me right away. When he turned around, his face looked older, somehow. Tired in a way I hadn't seen before. Thank you for telling me, he said, even if it hurts. I nodded, unable to speak. He sat down again, rested his elbows on the table, and looked at the floor. I think part of me always knew, he said. There were moments, small ones, when I could feel it. You were with me, but not really with me. I kept telling myself it would change, that love just needed more time. I listened, my hands in my lap. I didn't want to hurt you, I said softly. And that's why I waited so long. But in trying not to hurt you, I think I did anyway. He nodded again. I'd rather have the truth than a quiet lie, he said. The words stung, but they were fair. We were both quiet after that. The night had settled around us. The lights from the city flickered through the window, soft and distant. I looked at Thomas and tried to remember the first time I saw him, the first time he smiled at me, the first time I thought maybe I could feel something again. But I couldn't hold those memories. They didn't feel like mine anymore. Eventually, he stood up. "I need some air," he said. He grabbed his jacket and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "We'll talk more tomorrow," he said, "but I think we both know things will have to change." And then he left. The door closed gently behind him. I sat alone in the kitchen, the empty takeout boxes still on the table, the leftover noodles going cold. I leaned back in the chair and let the silence come. This time, it didn't feel like a prison. It felt like truth. It felt like something honest, even if it was painful. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was pretending. I felt like myself. And that, somehow, was the beginning of something real. The next morning, the apartment felt different. The light coming through the window was soft, almost pale, and the air was still. I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, hands wrapped around the warm mug. I hadn't slept much. My eyes felt heavy, but my chest felt lighter than it had in months. Maybe years. Thomas hadn't come back that night. I didn't blame him. I knew he needed space, time to sit with everything I'd said. I needed the same. I looked around the room. The coat he always wore still hung by the door. His coffee cup was on the counter. The little note he had stuck to the fridge last week was still there. "Don't forget to smile today." It made me want to cry and smile at the same time. I didn't know what would happen next. We hadn't talked about separating, not clearly, but I knew something was ending. The version of our life we had built on hope, on waiting for feelings to grow, on silence. That version couldn't continue. We had been kind to each other, but kindness alone isn't love. Later that afternoon, I went for a walk. The air was crisp, and the sidewalks were wet from last night's rain. I passed the bookstore and stopped outside for a moment. There was a new book in the window, something about starting over. I didn't go inside. I just stood there, watching the world go by, wondering how many other people were walking around carrying quiet stories inside them. At home, I opened a journal I hadn't touched in a long time. I sat by the window and wrote a few words, just for myself, not for answers, not for plans, just to feel something true on paper. I don't know where this story will go from here. I don't know what Thomas and I will decide, or how we'll say goodbye if that's what needs to happen. But I know I told the truth, and that matters. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like maybe, just maybe, my heart is beginning to wake up. Where are you listening from?